In many organizations today, product management has quietly transformed into something else. It's become backlog management, not strategy, not business design, not discovery, just a list. A prioritized list of features, estimated and delivered in a continuous loop. And on the surface, this looks like progress. Teams are busy, sprints are running, velocity is stable, Jira charts are green. But if you step back, really step back, you begin to notice something uncomfortable. The product is moving, features are shipping, but the business is standing still. This gap between operational activity and strategic momentum is where modern product organizations either create massive leverage or slowly, quietly drift into irrelevance. Today, we need to explore a fundamental shift, a shift from managing backlogs to designing businesses, and why product leaders in the age of AI must stop thinking like delivery managers and start acting like strategic architects. I'm Sebastian, and I help organizations build lovable products through modern, evidence-based product and strategy techniques. If you want to create real value, not just output, you're in the right place. To understand where we are, we have to look at where we came from. And to do that, we need to go back to the origins of modern product management. The role as it was conceived in the 1980s and 90s, pioneered by companies like Hewlett-Packard and later codified by thinkers like Marty Kagan, was never meant to be operational. It was inherently strategic. The product manager was supposed to be the mini CEO of the product, the expert on the customer, the person who could answer the foundational questions that determine whether a business lives or dies. What problem are we solving? For whom? And why does this matter in the context of a viable, competitive business? But somewhere in the last 2 decades, something happened. Under the pressure of digital transformation, the rise of agile methodologies, and the need for speed, the role slowly, almost imperceptibly, collapsed into execution. The backlog became the center of gravity, not the business model, not the competitive strategy. The backlog, that list of user stories in Jira, became the single source of truth. And this shift might seem subtle. After all, the backlog is just a tool, right? But structurally, it changes everything. Because when the backlog becomes the main artifact, features become the unit of thinking, not outcomes, not business leverage, not testable hypotheses, features. And when features become the unit of thinking, the product manager's job is no longer to ask why, it's to ask when. Let me show you what I mean. This is the intended model, the way we like to believe it works. We start with a sound strategy. That strategy informs a roadmap of initiatives. The roadmap is broken down into a backlog of features. And then finally, we deliver. Clean, linear, rational. But in reality, in most organizations, a very different dynamic takes hold. It looks more like this. Notice what's missing. The strategy isn't driving the loop. It's floating above, disconnected. It becomes an abstract document, a PowerPoint deck from the last offsite, gathering dust while the daily churn of a feature factory continues uninterrupted. And this is not just an anecdotal observation. This phenomenon is well documented. In a significant research study published in Harvard Business Review, authors Donald Soll, Rebecca Homkes, and Charles Soll surveyed 7,600 managers across 262 companies. They found that 2/3 to 3/4 of large organizations struggle to execute their strategies. But here's the key insight. The problem wasn't a lack of alignment, it was a lack of connection. Middle managers, The people running the product teams could not name their company's top 5 priorities. The strategy was simply not present in their daily work. Similarly, McKinsey and Company's extensive research on digital transformations points to the same conclusion. In their work on the product management mindset, they've repeatedly highlighted that most organizations focus on output, features shipped, story points completed, instead of measurable business impact. They optimize the machine, but they never ask if the machine is building the right thing. In a 2023 podcast on product leadership, McKinsey partner Ricky Singh discussed how even sophisticated companies fall into the trap of prioritizing activity over outcomes, mistaking motion for progress. Boston Consulting Group's research reinforces this. In their Build for the Future series, they analyzed hundreds of digital transformations and found that companies stagnate not because they lack technical capability, but because they lack frontline decision-making ability. Their teams are not empowered to connect their work to strategy. They are simply executing a list. So the question becomes unavoidable. If product management is not backlog management, then what is it? Product is business design. And that distinction between managing a list and designing a business is the difference between a feature factory and a company that builds momentum. This brings us to the dominant pathology of the modern product organization, a pattern so pervasive that it has its own name, its own identity, its own warning signs. It's called the feature factory. The term was coined in 2016 by product thinker John Cutler after a conversation with a developer friend who made an observation that would resonate with thousands of product people around the world. The friend said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "I feel like I'm just sitting in a factory, cranking out features and sending them down the assembly line." That image, the assembly line, is important because a factory is not designed for thinking. It's not designed for learning. A factory is designed for one thing: output, throughput, volume. And that is precisely what has happened to so many product organizations. They have become systems optimized for shipping features, not for creating value, not for testing assumptions, not for learning. The pattern is painfully consistent, and if you've worked in product for any length of time, you will recognize it immediately. Stakeholders request features. Product managers prioritize them into the backlog. Engineering estimates them, builds them, and delivers them. Metrics are reviewed, often superficially, often just to confirm what we already wanted to believe, and the cycle repeats. What is missing from this loop is the most critical element of business design, the element that separates motion from progress, the element that turns building into learning. Hypotheses. Let me explain what you're looking at, because this simple formulation is the foundation of modern, high-performant product thinking. This is not just text on a screen. This is a discipline, a way of working that transforms product development from a manufacturing process into a learning process. When you write a feature into your backlog as a task, build an onboarding tutorial, you've already made 100 assumptions. You're assuming users need the tutorial. You're assuming they'll complete it. You're assuming it will lead to higher retention. You're assuming retention is even the right metric to optimize. But when you frame that same feature as a hypothesis, everything changes. For example, if we build an interactive onboarding tutorial for new users, we expect to see a 15% increase in day 7 retention. Now you have a prediction. Now you have something to test. Now you have a way to learn. This idea that a feature is a hypothesis, not a deliverable, is foundational to the work of Eric Ries and the Lean Startup movement. It's central to Marty Kagan's principles of product discovery, where he argues that the job of product management is not to specify what to build, but to discover a product solution that is valuable, usable, and feasible. And it is the entire premise of Teresa Torres's work on continuous discovery habits. In her book of the same name, Torres argues that product teams need to move away from project-based discovery, where we do research at the beginning of a quarter and then forget about it, and toward continuous discovery, where we are constantly testing assumptions, interviewing customers, and refining our hypotheses. Torres introduces a structured approach that includes opportunity solution trees, assumption testing, and iterative interviewing. The goal is not to eliminate failure. It's to fail fast, fail cheap, and learn quickly. It's to replace the feature factory with what she calls a discovery habit, a rhythm of learning that becomes as natural as the rhythm of delivery. And this is not just theoretical. It's not just something we talk about at conferences. The data is clear. Boston Consulting Group, in their research on digital product success, found that high-performing product organizations run significantly more structured experimentation cycles than their low-performing peers. In a study commissioned by Google, BCG analyzed hundreds of organizations and found that those with advanced experimentation capabilities, what they call high measurement maturity, drive up to 1.4 times greater cost efficiency and up to 2.5 times the revenue impact from their digital efforts. But here's the catch. Effective experimentation requires something that backlog management alone cannot provide: a model of the business. You cannot design a meaningful experiment if you don't understand how value is created in your specific context. You need a theory of the business. How do we acquire users? What drives engagement? What converts attention into revenue? What are the causal relationships that connect our work to business outcomes? Without this model, your experiments are just random A/B tests. You're changing button colors and headline copy, but you're not learning anything strategic. You're optimizing a local maximum while the business model itself remains unexamined. And you can only ship features and hope. And this is the hidden cost of the feature factory, the cost that doesn't show up on any spreadsheet. It's not just wasted engineering effort, although there is plenty of that. Research has shown that in large-scale A/B testing environments, at most 33% of feature ideas actually produce the desired results. 2/3 of what we build either does nothing or makes things worse. But the real cost is deeper. It's the loss of strategic learning. It's the opportunity cost of not understanding your own business. Every feature shipped without a hypothesis is a failed experiment you'll never analyze. Every quarter spent in delivery mode without discovery is a quarter of ignorance about your customers. The feature factory doesn't just waste money. It blinds you. It creates the illusion of progress, while the competitive landscape shifts beneath your feet. And that illusion is the most dangerous thing of all. Now, something important is happening beneath the surface of every product organization, something that will not just highlight the problems we've been discussing, the feature factory, the lack of hypotheses, the disconnection from strategy, but will fundamentally accelerate the need for this shift. Artificial intelligence is entering the building. But let's be precise about what's actually changing, because there's a lot of hype, and we need to separate signal from noise. AI is fundamentally lowering the cost of building software. This is not a prediction. This is happening right now. Code generation tools like GitHub Copilot, Amazon Code Whisperer, and more recently, conversational AI that can generate entire application skeletons from a single prompt. Design automation tools that can turn wireframes into production-ready interfaces. Rapid prototyping platforms that can spin up interactive simulations in minutes instead of weeks. Many things that used to take a full team an entire sprint can now be done by one person in a day. Features that required 3 engineers and a designer can now be prototyped, tested, and iterated on by a single product manager with the right prompt and the right tools. This is not an exaggeration. In a recent experiment, a developer at a major fintech company used an AI coding assistant to rebuild a legacy microservice in 4 hours. The original had taken 3 developers 6 weeks. The code was cleaner, the tests were more comprehensive, and the business logic was preserved. This creates a profound shift in the product organization, a shift that many leaders haven't fully internalized. Because when the cost of building collapses, the cost of deciding what to build becomes the dominant constraint. Let me say that again because it's the most important sentence in this section. The bottleneck moves from engineering capacity to strategic clarity. For the last 20 years, the limiting factor in product development has been engineering resources. How many developers do we have? How fast can they ship? How do we optimize velocity? Product managers spent their time writing detailed specifications, managing dependencies, and protecting the team from context switching. The name of the game was efficiency. But when AI can generate the code, the product manager's job fundamentally changes. It is no longer about specifying the feature in excruciating detail so that engineering can execute. It is about defining the business logic. It is about understanding the user psychology. It is about articulating the value proposition so clearly that the AI or the engineer working with AI can implement it correctly. This is where AI becomes a double-edged sword. Used well, it can be a force multiplier. Used poorly, it can be an accelerator of mediocrity. Let's look at both sides. On the positive side, AI can help product managers define better features, not by generating ideas randomly, but by analyzing customer feedback at scale, by identifying patterns in support tickets, by synthesizing user interview transcripts, by suggesting hypotheses based on behavioral data. AI can process information at a scale that no human can match, and it can surface insights that would otherwise remain buried. AI can also help product managers define better backlog elements. Instead of writing user stories from scratch, a product manager can prompt the AI with a strategic intent. We need to reduce churn in the first 7 days. Generate 3 experimental approaches based on successful patterns in similar B2B SaaS products. The AI returns 3 hypotheses, each with a clear mechanism, a proposed metric, and a suggested experiment design. The product manager then applies judgment. Does this fit our brand? Does this align with our technical constraints? Is this ethical? The AI generates options. The human makes decisions. That's the partnership. But here's the risk. The feature factory, which was already dangerous, becomes catastrophic when powered by AI. If you're already shipping features without hypotheses, AI will let you ship them faster. If you're already disconnected from strategy, AI will help you build the wrong thing more efficiently. If your backlog is a dumping ground for stakeholder requests, AI will help you prioritize those requests more quickly, and you'll still be building the wrong things, just with greater velocity. There's a term for this in the AI community. It's called automating the broken process. Companies implement AI tools without changing their underlying workflows, and they end up with faster mediocrity, better metrics on the wrong outcomes, higher velocity toward irrelevance. The most dangerous risk is the loss of strategic thinking itself. If product managers start delegating their judgment to AI, if they stop asking hard questions because the AI provides easy answers, then the role collapses into something even worse than backlog management. It becomes prompt management. You see, AI is very good at generating plausible answers. It is very good at sounding confident. But it does not understand your business context. It does not understand your customers' unspoken needs. It does not understand the trade-offs that define great product strategy. Only you do. This is why the future of product management is not less thinking. It's more thinking, better thinking, deeper thinking. AI handles the routine, the synthesis, the generation, the automation, but the product manager handles the strategic framing, the ethical boundaries, the creative leap, the decision. So when we say the bottleneck moves from engineering to thinking, we mean it literally. The product manager's cognitive bandwidth, their ability to process complexity, to hold multiple competing frameworks, to make high quality decisions under uncertainty, becomes the most constrained resource in the organization. And this is why we're going to dedicate an entire future video to this topic, a deeply technical, practical video on how to use AI correctly as a product manager, how to build the right partnership with these tools, how to avoid the traps, how to ensure that AI accelerates your strategy instead of accelerating your mediocrity. But for now, the takeaway is this: AI is not coming, it's here, and it is reshaping the economics of software development. The teams that understand this shift, that see the new bottleneck and invest in strategic clarity, will build products that matter. The teams that don't will just build faster. And speed without direction is just another form of waste. So we've established the diagnosis. The feature factory is broken. The question now is, what does this shift actually look like in practice? The center must be something more dynamic, something that connects business intent to customer value. There's a framework for this. It's called the Opportunity Solution Tree. Let me walk you through it. At the top is your desired outcome, a business metric you're trying to move: activation, retention, revenue, specific and measurable. Below that, you map opportunities, customer needs, pains, and desires, not features, not solutions, real problems people have. Most teams skip this part. They jump straight from outcome to solution. We need to increase retention, so let's build an onboarding tutorial. They haven't checked if that's what customers actually need. Only after identifying opportunities do you generate solutions, and you generate multiple solutions for each opportunity. You don't fall in love with the first idea. Finally, at the bottom, you have experiments. For each solution, you ask, what's the fastest way to test this? A prototype? A customer interview? A small pilot? Notice what's missing. The feature appears nowhere until the very end. It's the output of the process, not the input. Let me give you an example. A team was trying to reduce churn. In the old model, they would have built features requested by churned customers. Instead, they built an opportunity tree. Their desired outcome: reduce 90-day churn by 15%. Through customer interviews, they identified 3 opportunities. Customers weren't getting value fast enough. Customers didn't understand advanced features. Customers missed key notifications. For the first opportunity, they generated 5 solutions: an improved onboarding flow, a weekly value report email, a customer success call, in-app tutorials, a redesigned dashboard. Then they ran experiments: a prototype for the onboarding flow, sample emails for the value report, a 2-week pilot for the success calls. The experiments revealed that the weekly value report had the biggest impact with the least effort. They built that in 2 weeks. Churn dropped by nearly 10%. This is the power of hypothesis-driven design. It's not slower, it's faster, because you stop building things that don't matter. For product managers, this means a shift. You're no longer a backlog administrator. You're a hypothesis designer, an experiment architect. For engineering, it means building for testability, feature flags, A/B testing frameworks, analytics that actually tell you something. For leaders, it means changing how you measure teams. Stop asking, what did you ship? Start asking, what did you learn? One CPO put it simply: I don't care how many features you shipped. I care whether our metrics moved. And if they didn't, I care whether you know why. This is continuous discovery. Not a workshop, not a quarterly phase, a habit, weekly customer touchpoints, constant experimentation. The teams that master this don't just build better products, they build better businesses. because every feature becomes a source of learning. Product is not backlog management. Product is business design. And business design is a continuous process of learning and refining how you create value. If there is one idea I hope you take away today, it is this. A backlog does not define a product. And a product by itself does not define a business. But a well-designed product, conceived as a system of value creation and driven by strategic hypotheses, can shape an entire business model. That is the real role of product leadership. Not managing tasks, not clearing lists, designing systems that create and capture value. Because real business acceleration is not created by shipping more features. It emerges when strategy, product design, and continuous learning cycles reinforce each other. When every feature shipped is a lesson learned, and every lesson learned sharpens the strategy. That is when a product stops being a backlog and becomes an engine for the business. Now, I'd like to hear from you. In your organization, is the backlog the center of gravity, or are you designing from first principles? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this valuable, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.